Chair, Committee Chairperson Tony Soriano, and our presenters, Deborah Boggs and Jason Mutzfeld. Got that one right. For our business partners and associate members on today's programs, we'd like to invite you to stick around afterwards. Our chair committee,
that means we're measuring temperature.
John Sikora would like to facilitate a brief focus group discussing ways to reach out to facility managers and get more out of your IFMA associate membership. Sorry, I haven't talked a lot today. So I want to save the dates for a couple upcoming events. January 27th at 11 o'clock, IFMA San Fernando Valley and WebHub are going to be having a webinar called Reshape the Workplace, Planning for Tomorrow and Post-COVID-19 Future. You can get more information from your local website, your local chapter websites on that one. We also have February 18th, IFMA OC webinar presented by Dr. Dean Kashiwagi. That's on new approaches to increase FM professional value while decreasing workload and costs. And the last one, February 18th as well, IFMA LA is hosting an in-person event, Winter Wonderland. And for that location as well, see your local chapters. We'll all be trying to post that and on our own website. So go to your local website for that one. We have a couple of board committee members present for today's webinar. If you could recognize yourself by putting a thumbs up on the screen, that would be great. So those that are attending can kind of see who we are. I am the OC chapter president. My thumb is up. We are looking for committee members and leaders to help our chapters. And I'm sure that's throughout all the chapters. We're always looking for help. If you're interested in volunteering, please reach out to Mike Lasher at our chapter office and we'll connect you with a committee. We currently are really needing some help on membership and sponsorship committees. It doesn't require a lot of time. Usually it's roughly about 30 minutes a month, or if you're hardcore, maybe you can do an hour, but it's not a lot of effort. And so now I'd like to discuss a little bit of opportunity that we have through IFMA for as far as resources. IFMA professional designations are FM, which is a facility managed professional, SFP, sustainability facility professional, and a CFM, which is is it credentialed or certified? I think it's certified facility manager designations. So look to your local chapter for information on that. Those are great programs and good credentials to have. You can submit your resumes to IFMA and post your resume on IFMA's websites. And we also have at ifma.org, we have job postings of companies that are posting as well. And if you all could put your computers on mute, that'd be great. All right, well, enough for my talking. I'm going to turn this over to Tony Soriano, our programs chapter chair. Tony?
There you go. Thank you, Jerry. Well, I was fortunate enough to get the Deborah and Jason for this important topic. As we know here, this COVID pandemic has really changed the world. And I was kind of looking and finding out that I'm not sure how the estimates are, depends on the industry, but we've got 11 million people that are out there on the road right now looking for a job. So there's a lot of things here that we can look at as far as job loss, layoffs that took place here during the pandemic, staff reduction that caused a lot of people to lose their jobs. And companies are now finding out that they can consolidate more because they have employees that are working from home, and they don't need that space in that third or fourth building. So these are real things that are happening. So one thing is constant, and that's change. So as career seekers, those of us that are looking or wanting to enhance ourselves for the future, because there's a lot of people that we're competing with now, we must know how to manage our lifestyle and career changes, and how to build winning career management programs affecting positive change and growth through our career continuum. As career seekers, we must learn to take charge of our career destination, find our purpose, create direction, and we need to maximize our ability to control our lives and work balance. There's a saying out there that resonates right now with our current state of our economy. When we put it off until tomorrow, to know tomorrow never comes. So with that, I'd like to introduce our speakers. And Deborah Boggs, as you can see her name up there, she's with DNS Professional Coaching. As a co-founder of DNS Professional Coaching, Deborah works with interesting, talented, and successful executives from all over the globe to equip them with the tools they need to advance the modern job market. Deborah has been recognized as a resume, LinkedIn, and job search expert by the Wall Street Journal, the Washington Post, Forbes, the Huffington Post, and many other career-related sites. In addition, serving as the international speaker and top-rated podcast guest, Deborah holds a Master's of Science in Management, also Bachelor's of Arts in Sociology, and Associate of Science in Labor Studies. She is also a certified digital branding strategist through Career Thought Leadership. And Deborah will be covering, it's going to be broken out in certain topics here. Deborah will be covering the writing and standing out resumes, online applications. Again, we're going through that scenario of seeing what's out there and putting our best foot forward. LinkedIn, the high level overview. So as folks are going out to LinkedIn, what really are you doing and how's that going to benefit you? Networking for your job search, very important, and that'll be covered by Deborah. Jason is with Mansfield Career Partners, and he provides instruction and learning experiences designed to focus on courses, training material, lean on-demand learning, using the Gallup-Clifton Strength Assessment. He guides clients through career transition and design strategy career goals. Jason is also a co-leader of Strengths Culture Training Seminars for nonprofit organization. Plus, he designed and implemented Mansfield's communication social engagement and content strategy, resulting in 50% revenue and increased in 2019. He's also developed company's first strategic plan, guiding the organization to grow through the curate of quality content, training opportunities, and expansion of the client base. And what Jason will be covering will be career coaching. What is it? When do you need it? You'll also be covering working with recruiters. What they do to, or what do they do, and how do they engage with them? So please join me in welcoming our presenters. Deb, you want to start off?
Hey guys, thank you so much. I actually, you know what, not to confuse people, but I think Jason can go ahead and get started because he's going to start with the important piece of what do you want to do and how do you figure that out, and then I'll talk through the execution of okay, now what. So I actually am going to pass it off to Jason first, if you don't mind. Thanks for the introduction.
Yeah. All right, I've taken the baton. Now I'm going to run with it. Thank you, Deborah. Hello, everyone. Thank you for taking the time out of your day. We're going to talk about careers. Why? Because we spend a third of our lives in our career. Good Lord. I mean, if we didn't have to go to work, we still would probably do something. We'd still probably go to work because the human system, the human society, we're all designed to work on something. We all want to achieve something in life. And that's where I come in. I came into career coaching from a very roundabout path. I've been in education and educational technology for a long time. And I've led a lot of trainings, and I worked with systems. And you can, a facilities management, you understand, you've dealt with your IT people. You see there's a lot of wires, there's a lot of moving parts, there's a lot of complexity. What I realized was people are sort of like that. People are just systems. We're a collection of systems. And work is one of those systems. And if that system isn't working in the best way it possibly can, well, it impacts the rest of your life. I mean, you figure if you break the day out the way Henry Ford did, 8 hours of rest, 8 hours of work, and 8 hours of whatever, that whatever and that rest are all going to be impacted by that 8 hours of work. Well, facilities management, it's more like 10, 12, 13. It's a lot longer than 8. And that's really what career coaching is ultimately all about. It's about performance. Now, we all are familiar with coaches from school. If you were fortunate enough to be on an academic or an athletic team, you know what a coach does. It's pretty straightforward. They help you, the individual team member, move the team forward towards team goals. And if you're in management or supervision, you understand what coaching is from that aspect as well. You understand that your team is made up of individuals, all of whom have different agendas, but you need to get them all rowing in the same direction. Not necessarily even in the same boat, but at least in the same direction. And that's where coaching comes in. So ultimately, career coaching then, what is that? Is that just like career counseling? Is this like my career center at college or in high school where I'd go in and I'd take a magic test and it would tell me I should be a lumberjack? Well, no, that's not what career coaching is at all. And that's what I'm here to share with you today. Career coaching, it's kind of like a broken chair. Let me share a story with you. And it's kind of roundabout. Bear with me. It'll make sense. I have a very nice office chair. And it's about 5 years old, and the wheel broke on it. I'm like, well, crap. I don't want to spend $300 or $400, $500 for a nice new office chair. I've got a broken wheel. But the chair now goes this way. So do I want to work this way all day? No. I stopped. And I thought, well, okay, how can I fix this? Is there any way to fix it? I can't prop it up. It's got a broken wheel. Well, thanks to your good friend Google and another additional search engine we probably use a lot, Amazon, I discovered that the wheels on the chair are more or less universal. They have a standard measurement for the little part that goes into the chair fitting. Doesn't work on all, but it's mostly universal. So for about $30, I bought some roller skate wheels for my chair. They popped right on. The chair is only about a half an inch higher than it was. And I now no longer have to have a chair mat, and they're better wheels. It's a better chair because I took a little time to ask some questions. And I got to thinking about that. You're asking, how does that apply? Very simple. You can't know what you don't know. What we don't know, we have to ask people about. We have to ask questions. This is what we all should have learned in school. Sadly, we don't always learn it in school. Ask for help, and you will ideally receive help. In the case of career coaches, what a career coach does is they provide you not answers, they provide you with guidance. Now, a consultant or a counselor will tell you, well, you've taken this test, you're qualified to be a blankety blank or a lumberjack. I love that analogy. So a career coach takes a little bit different aspect. A career coaching is all about the things you will do in your career. You will, once you have your resume in place, and Deborah's going to talk on that, that's one tool. That is just one tool. It used to be in the old days, you just had a resume and you sent the resume off to a job and you kept doing that until something happened. Hate to break it to you, in 2021, that doesn't work anymore. It does not fly. You have to take ownership and management of your career. That's why Merfeld we are a career management firm. We talk about career management all the time. You are in charge of a one-person economic unit. You are, even if you're a W-2 employee, you are in fact self-employed when you break it down to brass tacks. because let's face it, you can get terminated. You know, even with a union gig, you can be out on your rear if the whole company folds. That's why it's vitally important to have a career strategy, and career coaches help you guide that strategy. They help you with interviewing, they help you with negotiation, and they will also help you with the general strategy, which can be anything from I want to stay employed, I want to get promoted, to help me, I'm 50 years old and I don't know what I want to be when I grow up. By the way, that's a trick question. Nobody ever knows what they want to be when they grow up. It's a myth. If they tell you that, they might be kind of boring. But at least they're employed. That's the important thing. So a career coach does three primary things. First off, they're going to guide you. They're going to provide guidance. They won't tell you what to do. Coaches use a process of analysis that involves listening. So that involves asking a lot of questions. If your career was just as simple as, well, I go to work, I do my job, and I come home. If it was just that simple, and in a lot of ways it is, that's fine. A career coach, and if you engage a career coach, or if you engage in career coaching for yourself, which can be done, you can self-coach, you are going to find that you want something more than that. I call it find work worth doing. That's my motto, find work worth doing. And we want our work to give us more than just a paycheck. We want to go to work and know that our work means something. And this is where it's vital in the job search process, if you are in a job search process, to know what you want. You know, I have 5 guiding questions. And the first one is, what do you want? Because knowing what you want it'll involve your interview, your negotiation, your resume. It ties all that together. That is what your driving goal is. Now, you may not get everything you want, but you can at least try. And that's all that anyone can ask of you. So a coach will, first and foremost, guide you. The second thing, they're going to ask a lot of questions to do a thorough analysis of you. They're not going to treat you, or should not ever treat you, as just a commodity. We oftentimes think of, well, I am a blank, insert the role, and I do blank, insert the skills, and that's how that works. You're more than a role. You're more than your skills. You are not just a commodity. You are not just a set of skills. You're a whole person. And now this sort of, you may be going, wait a minute, he's drifting into life coaching here. That's because there's just a little bit of overlap here. Down to brass tacks, if you're just a set of skills to be traded and bought and sold like a commodity, you're replaceable. You are a widget. And you don't want that in 2021. You want to be known for your knowledge and your skills and your expertise and the ability to produce, ultimately, results. Because it's those results, and this is what the analysis phase is about, is understanding those results and accomplishments is what's going to get you the job. It's what you're going to use, because you're going to want to need to make a connection with a person. This is what interview and negotiation coaching is about, is how to make those connections. You need to know what you're selling. You know, I hate the phrase sell yourself, because, well, we've all seen enough police procedural dramas to know you don't sell yourself. That's actually illegal. You don't have to watch Law and Order SVU to know that. But you are selling who you are. You are selling your ability to achieve, to get results for another person. And you also learn through this analysis phase how to listen, because it's important that you not only understand the feedback, but that you're willing to internalize it, because a coach gives that feedback in the analysis. And human beings, by our nature, we don't like to be told what to do, which is why a coach doesn't tell you what to do. A coach will help you tell yourself what to do. And ultimately, a coach will not listen to you whine. I'm a Midwesterner, born and bred, and we don't like whining. We complain a lot, but we don't like whining. You know, there's a lot in life that is unfair, that is unjust, and ideally we should be able to fight it, and we should go out and change the world as best we can. But we also have to acknowledge that, you know, life sometimes just is, and we need to make the best of what we have, play with the cards we are dealt, and fight that system and make that system more fair. And to do that, a coach is going to help you understand who you are in the marketplace and what you have to offer and how you can overcome those obstacles that you will be presented with, of all kinds. That's ultimately what career coaching is about. It's about helping you interview, helping you negotiate, and helping you truly understand your value, because you are ultimately a valuable asset to any team. And that's what that performance is all about. You need to demonstrate that performance, and then when you get in the job, have that performance. That's ultimately what career coaching is. Now, the other thing we wanted to talk about today was recruiters. And I deal with a lot of recruiters. We don't actually refer people on to recruiters, but we deal with them a lot because they send people our way and say, can you please help this person? It's important to remember with recruiters that you will get recruited when you're employed. There's this weird, don't ask me why, it's just strange. When you have a job, people want to hire you. When you're out of a job, sometimes it's hard to get hired. It doesn't make any sense. Don't ask me to explain it because I don't understand it myself. Recruiters have one job, and that is not to get you a job. Your job is to get you a job. And if that involves a recruiter, great. Working with recruiters is a fantastic way to find a job. But ultimately, recruiter's job is to fill a position because that's how they get paid. Now, sometimes the more you get paid, the more they get paid. And that's ideal because you'll have that recruiter in your corner. But much like a career coach who's going to be in your corner and going to be that honest broker you need, a recruiter won't necessarily be that honest broker because they do want to fill that position. So it's important to understand their motivation and how it's different from career coaching. A career coach works for you. A recruiter works for the person, or works for whoever's trying to fill that job. And they will help you, especially if you're the right candidate. But understand their motivation is not necessarily in line with yours. But here's the best thing. Knowing a recruiter and working with a recruiter is fantastic because it's a networking opportunity. And Deborah's going to talk more on this. The important thing in 2021 is you take away, regardless of what you've heard from any of my ramblings, network, network, network. Networking is the most vital key to getting a job in 2021 because employers are afraid. They don't want to hire the wrong candidate. They don't want to hire a candidate who's got something that's going to come up and bite them in the rear. Employees are expensive. That's why contracting is on the rise. Nobody wants to hire permanently. But networking makes you a known commodity. And that is important. It's gold if you can get in with recruiters because they can help you expand your network. And LinkedIn is the place you're probably going to run into most of your recruiters. I just got recruited today for a director of learning position on LinkedIn, and I'll contact the guy and hopefully make a connection. I'm not interested in the position at all, but I am interested in learning what he has to offer, and that's the key. Always be listening. Always be offering to help. Offer a recruiter. Don't go to a recruiter and say, well, what do you have for me? What do I have for you? That sort of mentality of that service first and what you get out of it second is a fantastic way to make a connection because the recruiter will remember you. And if you've written your resume in such a way that it highlights your accomplishments and makes you notable, you've gone through career coaching and you understand your negotiating tactics and your interview tactics, you know what you're selling, that confidence will shine through. And that was that was a really, really quick way to explain all this. Deborah, I'm going to turn this over to you because Deborah's now going to go over the resume and your LinkedIn. And these are the important documents you're going to need. This is your online presence. So do pay close attention to what she has to say.
Thanks so much, Jason. And I have to tell you guys, so Jason and I have been friends for a long time. And he is amazing in what he does. When I first started resume writing, I had thought at the time I would do coaching too. And the name of my business is DNS Professional Coaching. I actually do zero coaching because I learned early on that I suck at it, because where Jason goes through this, discovery phase and asks a lot of questions and all these things, I'm kind of more of, okay, what sucks the least and pays the most? All right, let's go do that. And so it really, no one's served well by doing any kind of career coaching with me.
And yet most people want that sort of coaching. They just want the job.
No, so thanks so much, Jason. I took some notes during that because that was really helpful too. And he brought up a great point about recruiters. I was speaking to one this morning actually, because I do a lot of work with recruiters as well. And he had kind of summed it up nicely and said, I think what a lot of people are confused about and how recruiters work and how I work, not me, but him. He said, I find people to fill positions. I don't find positions for people. And I thought that was really interesting because it really kind of sums up his situation and the way that he works. So just keep that in mind if you're reaching out to them. So yeah, we're going to talk about a few things today, and I'm going to go super high level, but I do have additional resources for you guys. If you have questions, if you need more information, feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn. You all should have a LinkedIn profile. And if you don't, you will by the end of the day, because I will badger you into it. But we're going to talk about resumes, the LinkedIn profile, some online application best practices, and networking for your job search. And pardon me, I've got some notes here so that I don't forget anything for you guys, because we're doing super high level and I just want to make sure that I hit all the high points. So we're going to talk resume first. And Jason set this up really nicely, because before you can have an effective resume, you have to know what you're applying for. And it's a really important part of the process. Especially for some of you guys that have a lot of experience, or a long career history. Nobody wants a resume that has everything you've ever done, especially if there's earlier work that's not relevant to what you're looking for now, or isn't relevant to, like, say, the last 10 years of your career. So you really want to start first with, what is the job that I want? And if there's a couple different answers to that, that's fine. But that means you're going to have a couple different resumes, and that's okay too. But you really have to start with the end goal in mind, because you want to make sure that that document that we put together, that you put together, is going to be something that resonates with the employer. Because what they want to know is, is that a round peg for the round hole that I have? People, especially in this really tight job market right now, are not interested in retraining you to do something that they could hire 10 other people who are already skilled to do. So a couple things I want you to think about. Answer the questions that they may have before you may or may not get an opportunity to in an interview. And so, what does that mean? Some of you guys that may have gotten laid off due to the pandemic, list that in your resume so that they know, like, oh, why did he leave that job? It should be obvious if you left a job in April of 2020, what the hell happened? But, add it anyway, because we want, to be blunt, we want your resume to be more on proof. We want people to really understand what's going on. The other thing is, and I see, and especially in, you guys' industry, in an industry where you're not used to selling yourself, as Jason had mentioned, you're not used to marketing for yourself, this can be really uncomfortable, but you need to think through not what you did, but what you did that added value to the employer. So, and especially if you're looking to maybe make a small change in your career direction, things like that, it's not just, managed a facility of, you need to go into deeper detail. How did you save the company money? How did you change the way they were doing operations? Did you streamline anything they had been doing? Did you make anything more efficient? Did you save them money in utility costs? Did you manage a team? If so, how many people? What was your employee retention like? Did you have longstanding employees? Did you grow your team? Who did you report to? Did you manage a budget? If so, how much money? What was the square footage of the facilities, and what use was it? Like, people need context to understand the value that you brought to your role. And if you were in a role, say 10 years more, then you really need to show how your work expanded in scope during that time, so that you don't look stagnant. So, think about how your role evolved over time. Did you have any title changes? Because you're going to want to list the title changes so that they can see that you had promotions throughout that time. And if you didn't have promotions, that's perfectly fine. We just need to show growth. And we don't want, you don't want to look stagnant or like you've just been kind of being complacent for 10 years. And I'm sure no one has been. We all go to work every day wanting to do the best work that we can do. And so we want to make sure that we're getting that out there. So just think through how, what are some ways that you really moved the needle for your employer, and make sure that those are listed in any quantifiable ways possible so that they understand what that value was. And the other thing is, I'm sure, anybody who's doing facilities management right now who didn't get laid off is doing a crap ton of work for safety in their building right now, and safety protocols for COVID and changing the way, the building operates. And so, right now it's also really important to add the skills that you learned during COVID or because of COVID, or the way you stepped up and stepped out of your comfort zone to take care of some things. And so, if that pertains to you, make sure that you list it. Make sure that you also include any, new technology that you can use now. Anything you did for your buildings to make them safer so that people could return back to work, or whatever that may be in your industry. Make sure that you're including that information. And then where did my notes go? There we go. So this is the resume. A couple other things I want to tell you about it is, I alluded to this a little bit earlier, but we want to make sure you're not listing anything that goes, I don't want any of you guys to age your experience, right? The worst thing that could happen is a, 22-year-old HR assistant is reviewing the resumes first and then sees a date on there that's like, oh, my parents weren't even born then. We all we all worry about that, right? So it's important not to age your experience unnecessarily, and so make sure you're not adding dates that go beyond 2000. I mean, I like to stop at like 2005 usually, and then if you have meaningful work before that you don't want to lose the company name, or you don't want to lose the experience you had there, then you can add a separate section that says early career experience, and then it can include your title, dates, or not dates, title, company name, and then maybe a couple of your accomplishments. That way you can add early career stuff, but not everything, and that way you can leave some dates off. Same thing with education. If you guys graduated college before 2000, don't need to leave a date. It's not relevant anyway. It doesn't matter. They shouldn't have to know what date you graduated. And it's really just something that they use to age people out of opportunities. So I've had recruiters tell me, ageism is alive and well. And so we just need to do some things to mitigate that. And taking dates off that are unnecessary is helpful. Speaking of education, I know a lot of people, and it's a ton more people than you'd even think, but we don't talk about it because it's taboo. But if you didn't finish a college degree for whatever reason, that's fine. Don't worry about it. What you do want to do is make sure that you have an education section in some way, because that's really going to help you get through applicant tracking systems if you're applying online, which we'll talk about. And it also shows, you may not have a formal college degree, but you also stay, up to date on the best practices in your industry that are relevant for the actual work that you do. And it shows that you're a continued learner, that you're staying on top of things, all of that. So the certifications that someone mentioned at the beginning of this call, great opportunities, for the work that you guys do. It also is really helpful, especially, if anyone's off right now. It's helpful to work on certifications and continuing education and professional development during a time, if anyone's laid off right now, because it also helps you fill that career gap. Because you can also say, in 2020, 2021, between these months, I worked on these certifications. Here's how I filled my time. Here's how I worked proactively to manage my career while I was off. And so, adding some certifications is great there too. And it also just helps you to add an education section. You can still call it education, add your certifications. You don't need to include anything about college. If you took some college courses but didn't finish, just take it off completely. It doesn't matter. It's just highlighting the fact that you didn't finish rather than helping. So take it off, add your certifications, or even if you're in process for a certification, that's fine too. Whatever one of the important ones are that this organization provides, you can put the name of the certification, the organization name, and then expected, and then whatever month and year it's expected to finish. That way people know you're not done with it, but you get credit for the work that you've done to this point, and they know you're working on it. So then my rule of thumb, honestly, is if you have, paid for the course and are working through the course material, it's okay to add expected. If you're thinking about doing it and you expect to be done in March, that doesn't count. But if you're actually working toward it, that's great. So that's a super high level overview of resumes, like in a short nutshell. But I do have, like I said, additional resources and things I'm happy to help you with. The one last thing I do want to say about resumes, and it kind of leads me into online applications, is avoid these new modern graphic style resumes. In a lot of them are like free downloadable templates, and you can do these graphic resumes and they look great on paper and all these things. The problem is they do two things that are not helpful for you. They don't allow you enough space to include enough information to give, enough context to your background or enough keywords to get through the tracking systems. Speaking of that, for resume length, there's no reason to have a 1-page resume. You guys can all have 2-page resumes. Don't try to squeeze it all in one. It's not necessary. But the other thing that it does a disservice for you is the applicant tracking systems when you're applying online, or the ATS systems don't know how to read those graphic resumes. And so the robots aren't reading it clearly, and it oftentimes will get kicked out before a human ever sees it. And so those are not helping. Stick with a standard resume format. And again, I've got some examples if you guys need them, but those really pretty ones, stay away. So online applications. When you apply online, make sure, and this goes back to the networking, but make sure you also reach out to whoever you think the hiring manager or the recruiter, or maybe even that person's boss, whoever it would report to. Reach out to them via email if you've got that information, or LinkedIn, which, for most people you can find on LinkedIn, and connect with them and send them a message saying that you've applied for such and such role, why you're interested, and then add your resume, because it shows that you are interested in the role. It allows you to start a conversation with a human rather than just waiting and hoping the robot gets your stuff. It really helps spur a human conversation and gets things moving. And so make sure that you don't just apply online and then hope for the best, because right now with as many people applying for jobs, it's just not going to be the best bet for you guys. The other thing is, and I know we talked a little bit about this, but make sure that you do what? Oh, tailor your resume to every application. So make sure, if you're applying for a role, go through and just make sure some of those key skills they're looking for, like the highest level skills that is being asked for in the job description, are shown somewhere in your resume prominently. That way, number one, the applicant tracking system picks you up as qualified. And number two, a hiring manager, when they see your resume, can immediately connect the dots between, okay, Tony can do X, because they're not gonna call and say, oh, I wonder if Tony can do X. They're gonna want to know Tony does X. And so tell them, make it moron proof, put it right out there that yes, if the job description says we want someone who can do this, this, and this, make sure that your resume includes this, this, and this, to make it very clear that you have the skills that they're looking for. And then along those lines, it's really important to add a cover letter with your applications. And I know it's painful, guys, and it doesn't have to be, the thing about cover letters and my approach to them is they can be short, easily customized. You do not need to reinvent the wheel for every damn cover letter. It's not a big deal. But what you do want to do is make sure that you're adding one for two reasons. Number one, it shows that you put a little extra effort into it, because not a ton of people actually include cover letters. So it does help you stand out. Now, it is true, not everyone reads cover letters either. So just make sure you're not, trying to write a great American novel in one and get offended if no one reads it, because it may not get read. But it does help for the ones that are reading it. It shows that you put in extra effort, and it also allows you to add more context to why you're applying, why you're interested in that company. It gives you the opportunity to add a little more personality and information about, what qualifies you for that role, that you don't have an opportunity to do in your resume. So those two things are a reason why, even if you're applying online, a cover letter is a really important part of the process. And then we're going to talk about LinkedIn for a second. So LinkedIn is a super, super important part of your job search. And if you guys don't have it, or if you have a profile that's been dormant, or you haven't updated your picture since 2009, and you guys might have noticed from my picture, I need a new headshot, quarantine, my hair color changed. But 95% of recruiters are using LinkedIn to source their candidates right now. And that's according to LinkedIn's data. So if you want to be found by recruiters, you're going to need to be on LinkedIn, and you're going to need to have an up-to-date profile with information about what you do so that you can be found by those recruiters, because they're not just going to magically know what you do and what you're looking for. You have to put it out there for the world to know. And that means putting a headline that accurately says, what you do and what your value is, not seeking opportunities. That's not helpful. People, recruiters aren't searching by who's seeking opportunities. As Jason had mentioned, they like to hire people who are currently employed. So instead, use that headline, real estate, to say, facilities manager focused on blah, 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 whatever that is. And the other thing, number one, you have to have a LinkedIn profile. Number two, spend some time taking a picture or choosing a picture for LinkedIn with intention. And the reason is, your LinkedIn headshot, especially in the days of COVID, when you may not go in live for an interview right away, your LinkedIn headshot is most often your first impression with people. And that's the, and we all know we don't get the opportunity to make a second first impression. So we want our headshot to look exactly like we would walk into an interview, the way we would want people to see us, because that's going to be the only frame of reference they have. And so you want to make sure that's putting your best foot forward. I'm not saying you all have to go out and get professional headshots. That's expensive. I mean, if you can do it, great. I'm not saying not to, but the other option is, you can take a quality shot at home, have someone take your picture. Don't pick a picture from a wedding. You're not going to walk into an interview with a boutonniere on. Like, I've never seen anyone do that. That would be a little extra, but I see a ton of pictures on LinkedIn with, the boutonniere, the bow tie, the thing. It's just too much. Just because you looked good in a picture at a wedding doesn't mean it's an appropriate professional photo. So put on a nice shirt, comb your hair, have someone at home take a picture of you against a, natural background, with good lighting, and that's all you need. Just take it with intention. And I know I spent a lot of time on talking about the headshot, but it is so important, and it's so often overlooked, and it's a really, really important piece of quality profile to attract attention. The other thing is, it's okay if it has the same information as your resume. You guys, it is your online resume right now. It can be in first person. You can add some personality, talk about what you're looking for, but just make sure that it has the information that a recruiter would want to know, or a hiring manager would want to know, because they may only see your LinkedIn and not your resume, or vice versa. So we want to make sure they're still getting all of the information that they need. So in every section, add all the information that you would add in a resume. You can make it first person. You can, whatever you want. But at least it's there. The other thing is, then once your profile is up and ready and you feel good about the content, the other thing you're going to want to do is start reaching out and making connections. And this leads us into networking. And if you guys already have LinkedIn profiles, you just need to do some updating and some fluffing everything up. That's great. But at that point, then start connecting with everyone. And even if you have a profile you haven't used in a while, when you start connecting, think of literally everyone. So everyone that works in the buildings you guys work in, that you're friendly with, everyone, all of your vendors, or any of your, contractors, things like anybody who may be on LinkedIn, anybody you maybe volunteer with, or you guys, everybody who's on the call today should leave the call and connect with everybody who was on the call. That's been a great way that I've been networking over pandemic time of, doing these webinars and then connecting with people, and then maybe just doing virtual coffee with somebody and just talking about what they do. And it just starts to build your professional connections that are beyond your living room. When we can't go to live events, it's okay to reach out to people online. When you do make connections on LinkedIn, I know I'm going really fast, but when you do make connections online, make sure that when you send the connection request, you add a note about why. So, if I'm sending one to Tony, I would say, in my connection request, hey, Tony, I see we were both in the webinar today for the International Facilities Managers Association. I'd love to connect. That's all you need to do, but it lets Tony know that I'm not trying to spam him or be weird. We have a connection. He just may not know it because I was weirdly creeping on him in the webinar and saw that we were both on it. But that's one of the opportunities to start kind of building your network. And once you build out that network of all of the people you can think of to connect with, then you can start letting them know what you're looking for. And that's in a way, and Jason had brought up a good point of, we don't always want to be asking for something. So that's where, we would want to make a connection first, not ask for something right away. But you do want to maybe send a message to people and let them know, hey, just to let you know, I am looking for a new opportunity. But you want to be specific on what you're looking for. So you want to tell them, not just, hey, I'm looking for a new opportunity, because I've seen a lot of posts on LinkedIn of people saying, hey, look at my resume, I need a new job. Okay. What does that mean? So you want to be specific, let them know how they can help you. So say, I am looking for this kind of a job, and I can do these things, and here's my resume. Feel free to share it with anyone that you might think is interested. So they know exactly what you're looking for and how they can help you. Make it easy for them, because people are busy, and people right now are extra busy and have their own weirdness going on. And so we don't want to ask too much of them without making it easy. And then also say, if there's anything I can do in return, please let me know. I'm happy to help in any way I can. You can also, like I said, ask to have a virtual coffee and just kind of talk through, what's happening. What are you looking for? What am I looking for? What, even if it's another job seeker, you guys can all kind of band together and talk through options. Because, some of you may be interested in opportunities other people aren't, or know of things, or, it's never a bad thing to just get on, especially if you have the time, just to get on a call with a stranger and just chat about, you guys all have immediately something in common anyway, because you all do similar work. So it won't be as weird, and you guys can talk through what you do. And again, just building that network is a really important piece of the process, because so many jobs, and I'd love to see the actual research behind this, but according to all of the statistics, 80% of jobs are filled through the hidden job market, meaning they're filled before they ever make it to an online application, or they make it to an online post. So that's filled through networking, filled through employee referrals, things like that. And in a tight job market, people want to hire people that they know and they trust. Just like Jason had mentioned, people are really concerned about hiring right now anyway. And so really reaching out, and I know it can be outside of your comfort zone, but reaching out, telling people you're looking, and in an individual message, not just a post telling the world you're looking, but we're talking individual messages on LinkedIn, or an individual email, or a text to a friend, or a phone call. No, that would be weird, but a phone call. And and just let the world know, because I think a lot of times people are in a job search, they feel alone, they're sitting in their house, they're not on LinkedIn, they're not getting called by recruiters, and they're thinking, well, my experience is worthless, nobody wants me. No, it's just you haven't told the universe you want to be wanted. We have to get out there. So I know it was a very, very short conversation to go through this, but I just wanted to make sure that you have time for questions too. And I see that there's some questions coming in. So I'll stop there. I'm happy to dig deeper into any of these things. We could, Jason and I could talk all day to you guys about job search best practices. It's what we do full time. We love it so much. We nerd out all the time. When we're in the same city, we nerd out over pizza and beer about it. But right now it's virtual coffee.
Exactly. And I've taken the liberty of putting both of our companies and our LinkedIn profiles in the chat. So please, when you go out there to dust off that LinkedIn profile you haven't touched for a while, connect with us. I'm connecting with everybody. I connect with everybody, and I will be happy to answer your questions. Deborah's happy to answer your questions. Get in touch with us. Check out our website. I know DNS Coaching has a lot of free resources, and Debbie, you can go onto that and talk about that. I know we have a number. If you go onto our resources in coaching, under coaching, there's courses. We have a number of free courses that you can sort of self-train yourself. And we always have a lot of stuff on our blog, on our pod. I host a podcast, and I've written a book. There's a lot of stuff out there. You can self-coach yourself. So, and yeah, questions. Let's just dive right into these. Tony, did you want to ask the questions?
Yeah, the questions that came up on the chat. Here's one. How do you offer just enough detail on your resume to avoid not having much left to emphasize during the interview?
I'll let that one, Jason. Sorry.
Oh, that's okay. I was going to say, here's the thing. Your resume is a critical document. It is the most important thing you will write when it comes to your career. But here's another truth. There is a good chance the person you're interviewing with is only given it about 10 seconds to read the thing. They haven't really gone very in depth at all. Now, mind you, that you should spend a lot of time on it, because regardless of where their eye falls on the document, they need to see quality information, because there's going to be something in there that's going to trigger something if you're lucky. You want to be able to, you don't hide anything. Don't say, well, when I get into the interview, then I'll share this. No. Figure out a way, if it's really important, share it on LinkedIn, share it in your content, share it on a LinkedIn post, share it on a YouTube post, put it in your resume. Don't hide, don't let anything out there, leave anything out, because I'll be honest with you, when I would interview people, I would always go straight to LinkedIn. I would look at their LinkedIn profile long before I ever saw their resume. So, Deborah, what are your thoughts on that?
That's a really great question. I completely agree with everything you said. And I think, and Jason brings up a really great point. According to studies they've done of people reviewing resumes in the first stack and the first pile, hiring managers typically spend about 6 seconds. And I tell my clients, if I'm writing their resume, I tell them, because they'll agonize over this word or that word, or should we use of or about or whatever. And literally me and them are the only people who are ever going to read the resume. No one else is going to read it in detail. They're just going to skim it. And so make sure that you have enough context to let them understand what the accomplishment was, but don't go into so much detail that it's overwhelming, because people are going to just, if there's paragraphs or blocks of text on your resume, they're going to gloss over and move on anyway. I think just keep it to the headline, right? And make sure you're not burying the lead either from nurse, newspaper reference, but make sure, if you're, grew, cut costs by 30% by doing X, Y, and Z, rather than I did X, Y, and Z, which resulted in a cost savings of 30%, right? Because then you got the 30% all the way at the end. Instead, we want to lead with, here's the thing, here's how I did it, but it's just a couple lines about how you did it. And then hopefully someone sees and goes, oh, I'd like to learn more about that. And then you can dig into the nitty gritty of the process and everything in an interview.
Yeah. You're communicating value. Remember, don't ever just, and this happens a lot. People write their resume and they think, well, it needs to be objective and factual, so therefore I will just put my job description. Nobody wants to read that because nobody's going to read that. I mean, you need to put some stuff in there about you that's going to, because your resume isn't just a document of what you've done. It's you. This is your line card in sales, as they call it. This is all the things that you get when you hire me. So, yeah. Next question.
Next question dovetails into this question. What if your current employer sees that your LinkedIn is up to date? Do they get the impression that you want to leave?
So I love this one. I have two answers for you. Number one is good. They should know that you're looking and that you've got other places to go. But I will say, some people work for people who just, that would not go well. And so couple of ways to get around that. That's a really great question, whoever asked. I'm glad you did. There's a couple ways you can get around that. As Jason had said, which is 100% right, recruiters want to hire people who are currently working, and they also like to hire people who are happy in their roles. It's the craziest thing. We could talk about this later, but they don't want to hire people that want a job. They want to fight really hard to get somebody out of a job they like. It's insane. But having said that, then you want to, especially if you're currently working, you want to write a LinkedIn profile that doesn't make you look like a job seeker. It's adding what a resume would have on it. It's putting your best foot forward, but it's more about making you look like a professional networker than making you look like you're looking for a new job. So don't put open to new opportunities. Don't put things that are going to make you look like you're looking for things. And the other thing is, if you're worried, and this is one that I tell my clients a lot that have maybe a boss who checks their stuff. First of all, as long as you're not hitting the toggle switch that says alert my network to the changes, no one's going to notice that you made changes unless you've got a boss that's crazy and is like looking to see if you made updates, because these things aren't going to be visible, for people that aren't in your profile all the time or looking at your profile for the first time. But the other thing you can do is in that banner photo that goes behind so your headshot's here, then there's a banner here, right? And most people leave that blank. It's a really great opportunity to add something though, because it helps you stand out as a job seeker. It just gives a little more personality and interest. But the thing is, if you're currently working for someone, then it's great to add the company logo back there, because then if you make that update, but you add that company logo, you look like a good steward and advocate for the company, even if putting that up there makes you want to throw up. It can keep you from looking like a job seeker, and it helps, and subliminally recruiters see it and they're like, oh, he works for so-and-so and loves it. I'd love to talk to that guy. It helps in a lot of different ways. Now, I'm happy to add, to offer more information on this, but if you, don't have a picture with a company logo that works well for that, you can make one for free in canva.com.
Yes.
That's canva.com. It's really easy to use. They have LinkedIn banner option, and then you just find the logo online or whatever you want to do, pick the company color and call it good. Doesn't have to be perfect, but that is the best way I find to not look like a job seeker.
Yes, that's a great way to do it, honestly. And it does also make you look like a loyal employee, which future employer is going to look at that and go, oh, well, they're really loyal.
Right.
By all means, the only thing you mentioned it, that toggle switch, and Google is your friend. Go to Google and type in how to do a secret job search on LinkedIn. Google that. This is me teaching you how to fish. I'm not going to give you the fish because it changes all the time, but Google that. Maybe put in 2021 to get the most up-to-date information, and look for that, search that. And if you have any concerns at all, it's bound to happen. If you are actively looking, you may start to see things like that, but don't stress too much about it.
Okay. Next question. I see a lot of political discussions on LinkedIn. Should a person be concerned about what or how they share on public platforms?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah. That is
Sorry.
a fantastic question and very relevant.
Mhm.
We always take the tact of use your dinner table rules, what we call dinner table rules. No politics, no religion, unless
Right.
unless your business is politics or religion. If you're a campaign person or a minister, yeah, talk about religion. That's fine. But LinkedIn has been, in my experience, the more adult of the social networks, in that I have not seen as much politics and religion, but then again, I tend to gravitate in different circles, and the algorithm will show you what it thinks you want to see. By all means, though, remember, everything you do on Facebook, on Twitter, on LinkedIn, even if you have it locked down, is public. So if you don't want to be out there and advocating for something that's going to, may look poorly on you, don't zip it.
Right.
It's not being your authentic self to get yourself in trouble and to make enemies. Now by all means, if it is truly something you believe in and you want to advocate for it and you want to make a statement, that's fine. Because anyone who's offended by it or are upset by it or thinks negatively of you, you really don't probably want to work for them anyway. Just beware that you will pay a price for making certain statements. So just manners. It's pretty straightforward. Try and keep it on the QT, lock down what you can. Deborah, did
Right.
you have, what can you add to that?
No, that's great. And I completely agree. And I will say, like, Jason and I both have very strong political opinions, but you will never see them on LinkedIn.
No.
And so, it's one of those things, if you put, especially if you're a job seeker, I think about it as a business owner, and I don't add politics for this reason, but as a job seeker, I think it's even more important because it's your livelihood. You're
Mhm.
immediately turning off 50% of the population.
Yeah.
If the last election has taught us anything, we're really divided down the middle, right?
Mhm.
And so if you put something out there, then all of a sudden you now have 50% less opportunities. And so you really want to think about that, and think about it in your resume too. I, in my early career, was very involved in the labor movement, and did a lot of volunteering with the Central Labor Council and things like that with, in my personal life. But that is nowhere on my resume when I was still working, because that immediately turned off half of potential employers thinking, oh wow, she's a union organizer on the weekends. That's not someone we
Yeah.
that's not someone we want working with us, right? And same thing with any religious affiliations you have or things like that. It's just not something you want to include while you're looking for a job. Now, having said that, if you have incredibly strong convictions on something, then you may not want to get into a culture you're not going to fit into either.
Yeah.
And so you want to think about that. But to be honest with you, if I get a connection request from someone on LinkedIn that I don't know, my personal brand is really important to me, and I don't want politics on my profile. And so before I accept a connection request, I look at their profile and I look at their history, and I look at what they have posted and what they have commented on and how they've commented, because I don't want anyone from either direction
Mhm.
affiliated with me posting inflammatory things about politics on LinkedIn. Even if I don't, I decline requests that have comments about politics. And so, if they're reaching out to me for LinkedIn advice and things like that, they don't get it from me because I don't want to be affiliated with it. So, but that was a great question.
Okay, well, we've got many questions here. The next one says, what have been common reasons why people are seeking to leave current employer or positions during the mid-2020 pandemic, present time?
So do you mean common reasons why people are choosing to leave in the last couple, say 6 months or so?
What have been common reasons why people are seeking to leave current employer or positions
Mm.
during the mid-2020 pandemic?
Yeah, I'll let Jason take this one. I know I've talked to a few people that have been leaving roles, but I'll let you kind of take that one, Jason, if you don't mind.
Yeah. I've actually in the book I wrote a little bit about this, and it's very simply this: we have learned in 2020 and 2021 that sadly life is short. Life is short, and suddenly you can be walking down the street, and the next day a little virus can knock you flat on your ass. You lose the sense of taste and smell, and you die. And life is too short to have a job that sucks. I'll be honest with you. I went through a career change a couple years ago. I was in higher education, working educational technology. I was doing this on the side. It was my side hustle, and I left because I just my heart wasn't in it anymore. I knew what I wanted to do. I knew what I felt like I was called to do, and I wasn't doing it. And that was really weighing on me. And like it or not, everyone wants, we don't like a lot of moving parts in our lives. We want things to be simple. I go to work, I do my job, I get paid, I go home, and I repeat. But life is too short for a job that sucks. That's my answer to that question. Honestly, now there are a lot of valid reasons. Also, you want a better job, you want a job that pays more, you need a job that's closer to home, although that's less of an issue now. You want to pivot into a career that fulfills you, that is a better suit for your fit for your for who you are as a person. There's a number of different reasons that are all personal. Ultimately, though, you remember your job is not just a job. It is not trading time for money. It is an investment. You're investing your time. You are investing your effort. You're literally your blood, sweat, and tears, sometimes literally blood, in your job. So make it pay out. And if it's not paying out, you're not married to that job. If you can move, you have a luxury. I mean move in the sense of move careers, not necessarily pick up and move to a different city. That's expensive. But if you can move and get a new job that fits you better, take that chance. I mean, life's too short. So. Talk about bringing down the temperature of the room.
Sorry to be so quiet. I saw somebody get.
Okay, well,
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
yeah, I mean, anybody that wants to speak up, you can unmute and ask the question here. I think I've got some things in the chat room here that are actually talking from one person to the next, so I don't think they're actually questions. So anyone have anything else to ask?
One person asked me
Mike,
a
are you
direct
still there?
question. So I'll answer this without calling out that person. Somebody had asked, what if they took some years off to care for parents, family, and 50% of their experience then was before 2000? For the person that asked that question, I'm happy, feel free to call me. We can talk more in depth about it. But that's when it's really important to add that early career history section where you talk about, okay, here's the work that I did. It also helps to maybe add a section where you do career highlights. So on a resume, you'll have, a little blurb about you, a couple skills, and then career highlights and a couple list of, did this for this company in this role and did this for that company in that role. And a couple, like maybe 4 or 5 bullets of career highlights that maybe happened prior to 2000 or whenever, before you took your time off. But then go into your experience. And that way, you can list work from earlier, but that way they don't see something that's prior to. That way you're leading with what you want, with what you want them to know, because otherwise they're going to see like maybe some irrelevant work or a big gap and wonder, what's going on. You want to, again, don't bury the lead. So if the lead is like, here's the important work I did earlier in my career. And then I think it's perfectly acceptable, and especially for women and even for men, to add a career note. And again, this goes back to answering any questions that may happen before you don't get a chance to. And so, for people, I had a client who recently left a really great career in Venezuela and moved to the US and is now kind of starting his career over. And so he's got this weird, like doing work with international brands until 2016. And then all of a sudden nothing for 2 years because he didn't have a work permit. And now he does. And now he's working again. And his resume looked, it lent itself to a lot of questions, right? So I added a career note between 2016 and then what came next and said, relocated from Venezuela to the US, did these things during that time, and then start with a career again. And so I think it's perfectly acceptable, especially, you know, for women, men, whoever took some time off in their career. I have had men that took time off to raise families and things like that. Answering that question and saying, you know, career note, took time off to raise a family, also did maybe these things if you worked on education or if you were volunteering or whatever, fill that time with something. Just let them know what you were doing, and then that's fine. And I know that's a long answer. We can talk more about it. I can talk about women in the workplace all day, but feel free to call me.
Yeah, and having actually done exactly that, taking time off to take care of my mother in the early aughts, yeah, it just show that you've been busy. And one, I hate to say it, almost a saving grace of 2020 and 2021 is we sort of understand people have people have needs of family that life isn't a Dilbert comic. We're real human beings here. We have lives, and things happen. And it's unfair that that's something that has to be even spoke about in the United States. I mean, in Europe, they look at that and go, "Oh yeah, sure," and then just move on. In the United States, we want to see that. You don't want to see gaps. Well, guess 2020, everyone got a gap. Most everyone did. So, yeah, just be brief, calm, and factual. Hit it, move on. So, all right. Somebody asked. There's some other questions here.
Yeah,
So.
I've got a couple more here. Could you share an example of good resume that has the early career experience?
Yes. Physically right this second, I can't think of one that I could attach quickly for this. But I do have actually pause. Tony, can you go to the next question while I look up if I have one on
Sure.
hand?
Yeah, this is an interesting one. It's all dealing with age. And I am a white 55-year-old undegreed male. How do I compete in this market?
Well, I can actually sort of speak to that one as a 50-year-old overly degreed white male. It's weird. Employers will find any sort of excuse to not hire you. In some cases, what I've run into is, oh, well, you're overqualified. What do you mean? Well, you have a master's degree. You're going to get bored in this job. Oh, okay. Well, but I really like to do it. No, too bad. You can get discounted for a number of reasons. What I would say to you in this situation, don't look at it and say, I don't have a degree. I don't have. I'm a guy. I'm 55. I'm over 50. Which I hate to tell you this, age discrimination now starts at about 35. 40 is the official federal rule, but 35, 20 years ago. It's ridiculous. But it's real. There's tons of people out there looking to discount you for some crazy reason or another. But that doesn't mean you should focus on that. I'm a certified strengths coach, meaning I use the Gallup-Clifton strengths to find what's right about a person. Focus on what you know. You're an experienced person. You know how to learn. You know how to adapt. You've been employed for, well, let's see, if you're 55, then at least 35 and 30 some years. You've been working. You've been making things happen. Focus on your accomplishments and don't focus on somebody who might discount you. But most importantly, and please hear this, don't automatically discount yourself. If there are people out there willing to do it for you, don't do it for yourself. Don't say, well, they won't talk to me because I don't have a degree. Don't say that to yourself. Let them say that to you, and that's fine, and it's their loss. If they're that narrow-minded to think, oh, well, he doesn't have a piece of paper that's certified from the Higher Learning Commission. Well, big whoop. It's 2021. I know for a fact that Generation Z and millennials aren't going to colleges often because they've sort of seen that it needs to change. And people our age, we're still stuck in that old way of thinking. So I know that's probably not what you wanted to hear, but if you truly focus on what you know and that you can learn and that you can do this, that will shine through, and don't let anyone tell you any different.
All right. Well,
I love it. And perfect timing. Real quick.
Yeah.
I just uploaded to the chat here. I just had to check to make sure I wasn't lying to you all before I uploaded it. So I've uploaded a link to a page that's hidden on my website. It's actually free resources, and it's for people that have been impacted by COVID, blah, blah, blah. But anyway, you won't see it on my actual website. But at the top, download the executive resume template, and you'll see that one has the early career section. And for the person who asked me about career time before 2000, it also has the career highlights section. So it has both of those sections kind of in the wild, so you can see what that looks like. And it's a downloadable template that you can use to kind of pop in your own stuff. So it kind of shows you what that could look like.
Great.
And there was one
I
last
know
question
we have a matter
about
of
the,
timing here, but
okay, yeah.
one last question. Is it worth the investment to have a professional resume writer? I've been approached often and it can be expensive.
Well, first and foremost, start with going to Deb and Steve and going to going to Merrifield. See what we have to offer. Don't ever hire one in California. You want to hire one in Maine or Indiana. No, seriously though, that's a great question, and it's a fair question, because you may or may not need your resume professionally written. What I will tell you is, number one, get an editor. Get somebody to edit your resume. And that could be a family friend. It could be a relative. It could even be somebody you found on Fiverr. Get an editor. The important part, the best part of having a resume professionally written is that somebody reads it and fixes all those weird problems. Because again, as I said, you can't know what you don't know. And you don't always understand what you're saying in a document. I know I sure don't. I don't write my own resume. My partner writes my resume because I know what's in my head. I know what I've written down. I think I know what I've written down. It doesn't make a lick of sense when you read it. Get another human being to edit your work. And that's where a professional resume writer, and there's so many different options for pricing, from way too inexpensive to way overpriced. If you can find one in your budget, just make sure that they know what they're doing, and avoid some of the resume mills, the online, we write redresumes.com that ends up sending your information to Latvia, and they spit out a document and say, thanks for your money. So
Yes. I'm going to hop on to that and dovetail off of what Jason said, because I completely agree. Not everyone needs a resume written. If you're having trouble coming up with your value or those accomplishments, or understanding how to add, some of the things that you've done in your career, especially if you haven't needed a resume and you're kind of starting from scratch, then it can really help to work with a resume writer. And I'm not saying you have to work with me, but what's important in choosing a resume writer is two things. Pick someone who does an interview with you rather than just sending you a form to fill out. Because if they send you a form to fill out, which a lot of companies do, you're not going to get anything more robust than you would have already written yourself.
Yes.
So that interview piece and having someone really pull out that information and getting you out of your comfort zone to really talk about what your accomplishments were is really important. And so, I do that. Jason's partner and wife, Michelle, who's a very close friend of mine and wildly talented resume writer, she does that as well. There are a lot of companies at a lot of different price points. I am happy to point anyone in a direction. If you tell me what your price point is, happy to point you in the right direction of places you can trust. Because that's the other thing, is there's a lot of resume writers out there in the world that make us look bad, right? Same thing with recruiters. There's some great recruiters and there's some bad ones. And so everyone thinks they're all bad. Don't go to Top Resume. I'm only, the only company I'm going to call out by name, because I have seen enough resumes to know that is a waste of money. Non-native English speakers will write it and it comes out terrible.
That's who I was thinking of when I said it. You just,
I know, right?
Yeah.
Do not go to Top Resume. Having said that, there are a ton of options. Happy to help point you in the right direction. Jason and his wife do amazing work. I typically work with executives, but I'm happy to, point everybody in the right direction. And so, and most reputable companies will give you a free consultation just to talk through whether it makes sense for you. A reputable company is not going to let you talk to a human about their service and their process and make sure it's a good fit.
Yeah. Cool.
Okay, excellent. Good stuff. A lot of good questions, and your presentation was excellent. I think people are going to learn a lot from this. Deb, I thank you, and also Jason for this presentation. Very high level, and we've recorded this, and we'll get the information out to all those that have participated today. I think there's some other people that had to miss it because of scheduled things that were going on with either their job or taking care of family. But we did have quite a lot of people that did sign up for this. So again, I thank you. Great presentation.
Well, thank
Anything
you.
else there, Mike?
This was great.
Yes.
Mike, Any last comments? You're muted.
Sorry, I know I had to unmute. Sorry about that. Thank you all for joining us today. I'd like to invite our business partner members. This is an associate members only session we're going to move into at the conclusion of today's webinar. And we're doing a focus group discussion. We just want to have a discussion about how we're reaching our clients right now, and you know, how to best draw business in the COVID environment. So informal topic discussion. John Secor, our chair of business partners, will be facilitating this discussion. And we were slated to start at 2:30. We'll probably start a little bit earlier. We'll take about 5 minutes to let others clear out of the room. But again, I want to emphasize this is for our business partner / associate members of the IFMA Orange County chapter.